We do have a follow-up here on a story that we discussed last week that seemed at least a little bit curious. And that story involves recently retired Derek Carr, the recently retired Derek Carr, who just didn't want to go through the rigors of, the shoulder issue and having to get, surgery and the rehab process, and just decided, listen, man, I'm 34 years old. I've done it long enough. I've made my money, and it's just time to go. Thank the Saints organization, thank the Raiders organization, and he's off to retirement. And, then all of a sudden this came out. According to Jeremy Fowler and Catherine Terrell of ESPN, a Derek Carr representative spoke with at least two teams in the market for a quarterback about potential interest in the veteran, according to 3 league sources. While one of the sources classified the contact as indirect, both front offices were made aware that Carr might be looking for a new playing home. A shoulder injury never appeared on the injury report during the 2024 season, and a team source said that Carr went through a routine physical at the end of the season like all the other players on the roster, and that no issues were voiced about the shoulder. And this is why, according to player and team sources, questions and curiosity linger among some in the Saints building about the injury that inspired Carr's retirement. So that doesn't exactly sound like somebody who was just ready to walk away from the game. That sounds like somebody that was just ready to walk away from New Orleans. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
So what you guys are
that was kind of the only way to do it, though, right?
Just retire, and that's all you got to do to become a free agent?
It's one way to do it. Yeah.
Dang, that's cold-blooded. Derek Carr, I take back everything I said about you. That's cold-blooded right there.
Hey, man.
I would have retired in year 2 if I had known that. Why is he retiring in his second year? I got to get the hell up out of here. Damn.
LaVar, you're only
You'll
20.
see what's going on.
LaVar, you're only
retirement.
20. LaVar, you're 23. What's the plan?
Hey, the plan is to just, try to live my life, see what happens. Steelers, you want to come get me? I could find a way to come out of retirement, I guess. I mean, I'm bored now. I've been home for about 3-4 days. It's probably time to get back to work,
It just didn't feel like a cut and dry, it was time situation based on some of the stuff that you kind of heard throughout the offseason. And they even point out in the article that, whatever they were going through, they wanted to keep it in-house, and they wanted, he didn't want all that stuff. But apparently he had virtually no contact with anybody with the team all offseason. Kellen Moore just got hired. He never talked to him. There was a clear disconnect about where they were at. There was obviously the trade request that they kind of kicked the tires on earlier. So when it comes out that, he's just ready to walk away and he doesn't want to go through, I think if he was in a better situation, maybe he would have looked at rehab. Maybe he would have looked at, getting a surgery. Maybe he would have, none of it added up to me. Like, it just didn't make sense from the get-go.
There was too much smoke. I mean, that's the reality. This offseason, there was way too much smoke surrounding the whole situation. What I never understood about the shoulder injury was when Derek Carr came out to talk about it, he made it sound as if the Saints knew what was going on the whole time, that this wasn't something that just popped up. It had been bothering him or aggravating him for a while. So if that's the case, it couldn't have been a surprise to the Saints organization. It could have been a surprise to him if it was truly a debilitating shoulder injury that was going to end his career. So none of that really made a lot of sense, especially for the timing of when they announced that, hey, I'm going to step down and all that. So I look at it and just think he's 34, played some good football. If he does need a surgery, he now has time to get surgery, rehab, find another team. He's 35. Teams are still willing to pay a lot of money for a guy that can go in and be serviceable as your starting quarterback. And he has no doubt been that when he's been healthy, regardless of what critics may say. There's a need for that. There's a team who will do that. There's teams who will sign him to a deal. I mean, look at Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins got $100 million, not even to start one season. There's some team out there that on the other side of this is going to be willing to sign Derek Carr to a contract, at least with what Sam Darnold got. this past year, and potentially more in guarantees. And you have to step back, especially at this point in time in your career. A lot of guys will step back and go, well, when I'm done, where else am I going to be able to make $30+ million a year? You're not. None of these guys are going to jump into anything next that's going to make them $30 million per year. So to sit there and think, oh, he's going to retire. No, I don't know about that. It's just a way of being able to get out of it, allow New Orleans to move on. You're then going to be able to find another place to go. It doesn't have to be this, whole big ordeal. It could be probably a little better done, and he can get healthy. He can get healthy with what he's dealing with.
I just wonder, is there a betting line out there on this? And if not, can we create one? What are the odds that he comes out of retirement? And would we take odds on what team he ends up with? That would be the first thing I would think.
I would say if I was going to price the line, I would say odds that he stays retired is probably like a -180. And on the flip side, you would say like about a +130. That he comes out of retirement. Like it's the favorite would be he's going to stay retired, and I would absolutely bet that he comes back. Takes a year off, talks with his family, they pray on it, they do it. I swear to God,
in Bakersfield,
I think he's going to be back. And by the way, if you're the Saints, this isn't exactly the worst thing in the world. Just from the standpoint,
money. Well, he saved money.
Saved him money, and let's be honest here. You've been needing to rip the Band-Aid off this thing for several years now. They've not been a contender, and they've not really had a window open to compete since, if we're being truthful, probably the NFC title game in which they got screwed on that call by the Rams. It's been and they've just been kind of treading water. Drew Brees had the shoulder issues or had whatever he was going through, and they just were trying to figure it out afterwards, and you've had coaches come in and out. Since Sean Payton left, I think there was a reason Sean Payton walked away. Sean Payton was like, yeah, writing's on the wall. This ain't happening.
I just think if Derek Carr, if he were to come out of retirement, I'm not going to be like upset about it or anything like that. It just doesn't seem to me to be very honorable. That's all. I just think that's some wild cheese. Like, I'm gonna retire and then come back and get paid again on a different team. I mean, why isn't that done more often? Why don't guys exercise this option more often? I just don't understand it. I feel like I've been cheated, actually.
Yeah, it has been done with some teams, throughout the years. It's just, I think for the hard part is, at that age, no one wants to question your desire to play the game. And it obviously becomes a big question if that's what you're using to get out of the previous situation. And I also think teams are wise enough to say, well, if you did it to them, you're not going to do that to us too.
Right.
Like if you walked in to a date and you first met the girl, and you're talking, and she's saying to you, well, my last relationship, I actually faked my death. Yeah, I had one of my family members reach out, and that's how bad I wanted to get out of the relationship. I didn't want to tell them, so I had my sister reach out, and basically we made up a death, and I ended up moving, and et cetera, et cetera. You'd be like, wait, what? Hey. Okay, you did that to them? I mean, you might be a little bit crazy, right? I mean, that would at least be the gist that you take.
I'm going to probably say, I got to go to the restroom really quickly and probably will slide out. Hopefully where she's seated. Yeah, she's not able to see me leave up out of where it is.
Let me play out this scenario. Knowing you, all right, and how you operate. The problem is you might find your way right back to that location, and that person might be right at that location when you happen to be moving on to the next one.
That's okay.
So you put yourself at risk of that.
She's dead to me. Get it?
Yeah.
You done it before. You're dead to me now.
That's what happened.
Sorry.
I don't know. I don't date corpses.
Riverside.
Hey, by the way, isn't this similar? I mean,
and you're right. I do go to the same places.
Isn't this kind of similar to what Carson Palmer did with the Bengals? He wasn't happy there, didn't want to be there, and just said, "I'm out.
Yeah.
See you guys." I mean, it was a little bit more contentious and a little bit more public, but it's basically
Ended
the
up
same thing.
with the Raiders,
Yeah.
and then Arizona. Yeah.
This is great. So LaVar, you're saying it's a little disingenuous. The story.
It really is. But you know what? More power to you. If you could pull it off and the team is still willing to pay you and you got yourself out of a bad situation and a bad setup, good for you, man. Good for you. Have at it. I think we should hear at least 2 or 3 cases of retirement every single year if you could actually really successfully pull this off. Like, yep, retired. Like, who? Oh, man. Nah, he's coming back. Okay, I don't know. It just seems like, how are you able to do that? You shouldn't be it should be, if you retired, that team retains your rights. And if you were to come out of retirement, then you got to go back and you got to deal with what the situation it is. Because otherwise, I mean, you're getting out of a contractual situation. And while I'm not pro franchise, I'm just saying, how does that work? You know what I mean? Like, how does that work? Like, you just going to get out of being here? Like, we got you because if you do that in a draft, they retain your rights, right? If you say, I don't want to play for you, I'm not going to play, whoever drafts you, they own the rights to that player.
It'd be the same
what
thing.
would that be any different?
They would still have the rights to him in this case.
They would still have the rights to Derek Carr.
Yeah, they'd have to figure it out. But you're hoping at this point, a year from now, they've moved on, right?
Right. Okay. All right.
It's like again, in the hypothetical scenario, you fake your death, you come back, you see the person, you're like, oh, well, they're married now, so it doesn't really matter, right? Like they've moved on.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they don't have as big of an
sense.
issue with it.